Welcome back. One of the more headline-grabbing election results from this week was in Kentucky, where Republican Matt Bevin cruised to an easy win in the race for governor. Bevin campaigned hard against the Affordable Care Act. Kentucky, interestingly, is one of Obamacare's few Southern success stories. So what happens now to the thousands of state residents who are getting their coverage from the ACA? Joanne Kennan is healthcare editor for Politico and joins us now. It is great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
This was an interesting election week. You saw Houston vote on protection for gay and lesbian people. You saw a marijuana measure go down in Ohio. But I'm drawn to what happened in Kentucky, because Kentucky, a conservative southern state, has been one of the rare, for the region, Obamacare success stories. The rate of uninsured has gone way down over time, and yet a candidate who campaigned hard against the Affordable Care Act won, and won big.
Yes, Kentucky has a huge enrollment in Obamacare. They're the only southern state that has run their own exchange and expanded Medicaid. In other words, the two big tools for expanding coverage, they've done both. At various times in the campaign, Bevin said he would get rid of both of them. Now, as the election grew nearer, he changed what he was saying. So the first part is Kentucky has almost, I'm talking really rough numbers, 500,000 people. It's roughly 1 out of 10 people in Kentucky are covered by Obamacare. That's a lot of people, right?
And one set of numbers that I saw that stuck in my brain was that the rate of uninsured
really plummeted.
Prior to the Affordable Care Act was 20.5%, 21%, somewhere in that range. They're now below 10. They're at 9 point something. So a dramatic drop in the number of uninsured people.
One of the sharpest drops of any state in the country, maybe the sharpest
reversing drop. What nationally has clearly been a decades-long increase in the number of people who don't have health insurance. When you don't have health insurance, you've got the anxiety that comes with not knowing how will I get care, will I get care if I get sick, et cetera, et cetera. How is it? This feels like such a contradiction. And so let me just ask that. How is it that a guy with this rhetoric could win in this place?
Well, it's still, on what he's saying on Medicaid, he started out saying, I'm going to get rid of the Medicaid expansion. And later in the campaign, he did soften that. He didn't say, I'm going to get rid of it. He said, I'm going to change it. And other southern states, such as not just southern, other conservative states, Arkansas being one of the most notable, Iowa, Idaho, some of these states have done a Medicaid expansion. I think Alaska is one of the ones that is also doing it, where they're not just doing the straight Obamacare model. They have made some conservative tweaks. They've negotiated with the administration, so there's been a compromise. Yes, we'll take the Obamacare money. We'll take the federal dollars, which is paying for it. We will expand to the working poor, the low-income population, but we're going to create some requirements that make us feel more comfortable as a conservative. The administration won't let a state just do whatever it wants, but they have had the negotiations about things that are acceptable.
Lots of waivers.
Right. There's some things that the Obama administration won't accept, but they really want to get these people covered, and they've let states have some flexibility. So does Bevin want to get that waiver? Does he want to get some flexibility? That's what he's talking about at the moment. Originally it was, I'm not going to do expansion. Now it's, I'm going to change how we do expansion. That's a big difference. So he's not talking about throwing 400,000 people off of Medicaid. On the exchange, every state has an exchange, whether they run it themselves or whether you go onto healthcare.gov, which now does work. Kentucky's is called Connect. Now people are calling it Disconnect. It's one of the most successful state exchanges. It's signed up about 100,000 people. Most of them are subsidized.
It was a product of the prior Steve
Bashir,
the
outgoing Democrat,
outgoing two-term Democratic governor,
he didn't run it,
in a moment of or in an incident of what am I trying to say?
The poster child governor.
Yes,
you can't really be a child governor, but yeah.
For someone taking big political risk is what I'm trying to get at.
And he made it work. I mean, Connect worked. It didn't melt down. It's had some problems, but basically it's a pretty high functioning exchange. Now, a governor can't just say, I'm opting out of the Affordable Care Act. A governor can't repeal a federal law. There will still be an exchange. So the issue is, does he stop running Connect? And that's where the disconnect joke is circling around on Twitter. But in that case, people would still get coverage under healthcare.gov, under the federal exchange, like 38 other states. state can still, your attitude can make a difference. If you're doing outreach, if you're encouraging people to, if you're putting resources, and the Governor Bashir sort of got out there and said, this is a good thing, see if you can get a subsidy, sign up, we'll help you shop around. They were doing, marketing, they were spending state funds and state time to sort of do that outreach. But in some states where the government, it's not like everyone's going to suddenly lose insurance if you switch to healthcare.gov, because other advocacy groups come in, other enrollment groups come in, the insurers market themselves, they want the customers. Florida is another example of a very conservative governor. They did not expand Medicaid, and he did not do his own exchange, and yet Florida had something like 1.3 million people sign up because the other people stepped in where the governor would not. So yes, he can. The new governor in Kentucky can make it look different. He can't repeal it. He can't make it go away. He can't just say it doesn't exist in my state.
One of the things that I think makes this a head-scratcher, at least from afar, if not people who are closer to the political vibe in Kentucky, is when people vote against their self-interest, or it's perceived that they're voting against their self-interest.
In some of those Appalachian counties where there is, in fact, a high participation in subsidized coverage through the exchange or Medicaid. Now, people are not all single-issue voters, and he was promising, I'll fix things, I'll do a different kind. I mean, I have yet to see a candidate, nationally or in a state, campaigning saying, I'm going to take away your health insurance. I mean, they don't sell it that way. They say, I will have a cheaper, more affordable, better, I'll fix it. Because, whatever you think of the Affordable Care Act, I mean, I don't know anyone who's going to say it's perfect, it's completely affordable, nobody, even the most staunch champions of it. I mean, Hillary Clinton's talking about improving it, and she likes it. So, nobody's going to say it's a problem-free, perfect solution to health care in America. And so you have conservative politicians saying, I'll do a better job.
But it underscores, as if we needed the reminder, how unpopular, how controversial this thing. And I think back, as we're talking, I think back to some of the protests, and this is not a huge Tea Party area by comparison to other areas, but I remember being at town hall meetings that I think it was Congressman Moran, might have been somebody else, had back in the summer of 2009, that famous summer when the debate was happening.
It was death panel summer.
It was death panel summer, yes. And ever since, I mean, in some ways, the passion and the anger and the pushback, the vigorous pushback against this notion that Washington will tell us what we must buy.
We had a
profound.
We had a reporter
even in
out
areas
in Texas
where it's working.
We had a reporter go to Texas a week ago, right before the start of the enrollment. She went to this county in this country with the fewest people. 12 people have signed up. Okay, there are not a lot of people who live in that county. The number it's not the lowest percentage, but 12 people in the entire county. And she found people who are uninsured, who would qualify for enormous subsidies, who are just right on that, economically they're going to get a lot of help, and they didn't know they were going to get help. All they heard about was this thing is expensive and I don't want the government to tell me what to do. And some of them hadn't even looked or realized that they could get insurance without really paying a lot. So yeah, the messaging, people are confused, and they've heard a lot of bad stuff about it over the years.
I read that story. I'm blanking on the name of the reporter who did it.
Roger Nebraden. It was really great.
And one of the things that came through to me loud and clear reading the story was this general sense of disgust, basically, that Washington was going to tell people.
You can't tell me I have to buy insurance, right?
And that people didn't know a lot of the details. They didn't know about the subsidies. And part of that is that the state apparatus, the governor and his team were making no effort, basically, to put people in the field to at least tell people in an informed, full way what their options are. So you've got people making pretty important decisions about their life, their family's life, etc., in kind of a vacuum in terms of information.
But we also sent a reporter a few months ago down to Hialeah, Florida, which had the zip codes that had the highest enrollment, and those are Republican areas. Sort of working class, lower middle class. It's a couple of miles from where Jeb Bush lives, a couple of miles from where Marco Rubio lives. These are people, it's a very Republican congresswoman, very Republican, very conservative, huge turnout there for Obamacare, because somebody went in and said, whatever your politics are, this is actually good for you, and people signed up.
In maybe a minute that we have left, the beauty of a state exchange that works properly, and so many haven't, is that You can go to it, you go online, and you answer questions, and then you click through options. It's a one-stop shop where people can get information and make decisions at their pace. Is that
You
fair
can
to
also
say?
get more, I mean, HHS this year is rolling out more tools for shopping on the healthcare.gov site. Some of them, they want to make sure they're accurate. They're not all, they're still sort of testing some of it, but you're going to be able to, fairly soon, they hope, you'll be able to look for specific, is this doctor in my plan? Is this drug covered? So you're supposed to be able to get a lot more granular detail. Because, you know, I cover healthcare for a living. Do I get confused about my own plan? And I have good coverage. Yeah, I can't figure out, you know, why this thing is covered and this isn't. You know, so they are trying to make it easier for all American state and federal exchanges.
At long last. Joanne Kennan of Politico, thanks. Back in a moment.